All right, welcome back to the show. On today's segment, we'll explore a topic that shapes destinies and transform lives. Goals, leadership, and living right is the topic we'll be looking at today. Now, in a world driven by ambition, it's not just about settling goals by aligning them with purpose, but also leading with impact and living with integrity. These elements are the cornerstone of personal success and also societal progress. Joining us today is someone who embodies those principles. And with us today is my boss, Godwin Katlu. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, Nana.
Let me brag about you a little bit. So he's the founder of
Okay.
Lead World Leadership Initiative International with over 12 years of experience nurturing emerging leaders and inspiring excellence. Godwin also has impacted over 7,000 young people through his visionary program. He works in the leadership development and mentorship that has earned him recognition as a role model and thought leader. We are honored to have you here, sir, to share your insights and also how to set meaningful goals, lead effectively, and also live right in today's world. Welcome once again, sir.
Thank you very much, Nana. It's such a delight to be here.
3 years. I get to finally see you again.
Amen. That's how time flies.
I know, right?
So we are good.
But what's up? Like, what's been going on with you in terms of this trend, especially youth leadership? What's it all about?
Okay, so it's been a lot. So Lead World Leadership Initiative is a leadership development organization. We are geared towards helping individuals and organizations discover and develop skills and competencies for leadership and productivity. So within the last 3 years, we've been putting out some of our programs. Currently, we are running a Career Youth Leadership Fellowship.
Oh,
so
nice.
the fellowship of young people who are already in leadership circles in local communities. So coming together and then building competencies, driving peaceful communities, and of course, ultimately leading.
And how has the
nation
journey
building.
been?
Yes, it's been amazing so far. That particular project started last year. We've been able to impact directly 50 of the career fellows, that's what we call them. And then they in turn have been able to send impact across the grassroots, and it's been amazing.
I'm jelly. This is nice. Okay, so let's go straight to it. Okay, first of all, let me just ask a question concerning setting goals. What does it mean to set goals that align with purpose and vision?
Okay, yes. So for me, setting goals that align with vision embodies the need to not just set goals casually, but to set goals with that intentional, deep understanding that it must translate to an endpoint. You see, it is not a goal if there is no endpoint in view.
Truth.
And now the year is just beginning, and I'm sure that's the language in major circles. So everybody wants to talk about goal setting, everybody wants to, but then the challenge could be attempting to set goals just to impress the rest of us. And in the end, what's the end point? What's the target for this goal? Because if there's no target, we can't say there's a goal.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's called a goal because that should be where the target lies. Yes.
Okay, so there's a question I want to ask, but I think let me just go straight to this one. Then I could ask that after that. So now we all have our own definition of success. Everybody has what success means to them. Okay. How do you define success when pursuing goals?
I think for me, it depends largely on what the objectives of the goal is. And you see, no one goal solves every problem. So to one person, for instance, success could mean, what have I been able to achieve? So the end point there is success for him or her. And to another person, success could possibly mean, what have I become in the process of achieving this goal? So I've not yet reached the end goal, but I'm not the same person. So something about me has changed. I have evolved.
Yeah.
So that could be an indicator of success.
Exactly.
So another person's success could mean personal development.
Okay.
So in doing all of this, I'm growing. I'm seeing the positive sides I never knew were already a part of me. So I may not still have reached the end goal, but then I've achieved this. To another person, it could even mean that what I'm doing is able to touch many more people. I'm seeing the impact on the lives of many more people. I mean, that could be success. So not necessarily money, because sometimes people limit success to how much money did you make.
Yeah,
everything is on money. Yeah,
exactly.
So goal setting could help us shine these different lights. And
okay, now before we move to the next conversation, or should I say the next question, let me ask this. Let's do something practical a little bit. So I'm going to use, so let's say there's this lady called Amaka. In 2023, she did create her, when she was going into 2024, she did create this, or how do I put it? She laid down her goals. She laid down her New Year resolution, what she wants to achieve in 2023. and she basically did a lot of them. But going into 2024, she did not lay down rules. But funny enough, what she did in 2023, she brought them into 2024 to lay down the foundation, using that to also build her goals, which in 2024, she was able to achieve a whole lot, which she didn't really, let's say she was kind of intentional about them. She was more or less like, let me move whilst it's moving, while the years is going. But then things were being placed for her. Now, moving on into 2025, which is this year, this is somebody who hasn't really set the goals for 2025. She's still trying to figure it out. And then, is it okay for me to move into the new year or move into the next part of my life without setting goals, but using what I've already learned to create that foundation for myself?
Okay, that's a beautiful question. I know I've also met people who argue that this goal setting thing doesn't work. So just run your life the way you meet it and all of that. But that could be a challenge. Now, this is where I stand. If goal setting works, why not set it? You see, sometimes it's not really a big thing because many of us don't want to do the work of having to just sit down there, put thoughts to paper, and just get going. So there's this picture of goal setting that puts it as so much of an enormous work. So for that particular person, I would definitely say if goal setting had produced the results, why not set it? You see, the challenge many times is to think that I now know what to do. So the confidence is already there. So I don't need to think too much to know that I can breathe in and breathe out and all of that thing. But imagine if the person still takes the pens, the labor, the work of setting the goals. Imagine where the person would get to. So ultimately, let's not excuse the successes that happen to us by virtue of our strength for, the need not to set goals. So that's where I'm going.
Okay, now let's talk about intentionality. Being intentional with your goals, being intentional with your your vision. Now in situations like this, when people say they want to be intentional with it, meaning you don't want to put too much effort, but then you want to take a different route or a different pattern that you don't normally use, how does that also work? How okay is it for you to be intentional with whatever you do or whatever you want to achieve?
Okay, yeah, I'm an advocate of being intentional in whatever we do because you see, I believe that we can spread ourselves into whatever thing we want to do and achieve more impact than trying to spread ourselves doing many things. And at the end, we couldn't really catch what impact looked like in it for us. Yes, so that is what it is for me. You know, as much as it's important to explore, we should also know that it's important to measure in certain aspects of our lives. Yes, so and goal setting speaks to target. Let's not forget. So let's be high on that target. Okay,
so integrity, define that and purpose to you.
Well, integrity for me, speaks more to being somebody whose words match his action. So in other words, I'm saying that this is who I am and my actions is communicating it. You know, another way I want to see is that it communicates that positive alignment between what I want to do and what I've already done. Between the promise and the delivery. Now, the promise is that I believe I'm promising 2025, for instance, that it's going to be an amazing year. And whether you like it or not, your conscience is watching to see. Will you commit the efforts to make 2025 a memorable year? You know, the promise is that 2025, something will change about my attitude. You see, and then people are watching. Now, let me tell you a little story, though. It's not long, just a little story. So some years back, I knew I wanted to host a conference. So I targeted a month and I said, okay, so November 16th. I said the date. It was so clear. I'm going to host this conference. And guess what I did? I looked for somebody to tell. Now, I told the person about what was in mind, and the reason I did that was for the person to hold me accountable. So to some extent, the person had the liberty to question my integrity. If for any reason I didn't fulfill what I told him I was going to fulfill. So it's important. You know why? Because there is scarcity of integrity. So we have many people, just like you pointed out, setting the goal is cheap. You see, but actually settling down to run the goal is where the work lies. And we can't afford to play with our integrity here. Okay, so integrity plays a larger role to how much we achieve the promise we made to people or to the year and to whatever area of our lives.
Wow, interesting. All right, so now setting and achieving meaningful goals. A lot of us wake up and we kind of set outrageous goals. Now, I learned something. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. somebody once said that it's okay for you to start with the little goals, the goals you can actually touch right now. Then through that, the bigger goals becomes a little bit easier for you to achieve them. How okay is that? Is it okay for me to set certain goals that I feel like maybe it's scary, but then I can still achieve them?
Okay, the beautiful thing with goal setting is that there's always a starting point. And that's where I want us to base the focus on, because many times people live their lives to just want to impress the next person, that I can choose so much, I can take more, just entrust me with it and all of that. And then the responsibility comes and you're stuttering, you are staggering, because life is in levels. You know, I read a book many years ago and it was explaining the principle of a domino. You know how it works. So there is a need. You want
now it still messes up with me.
Okay. So you want to crush off all the dominoes. So what do? Just look for the first that you are going to hit. Knowing that if I take that action, the effect will spiral. It will hit the next. It will move on to the next. And before your eyes, all of the domino is down.
Exactly.
So that's the same principle that applies to goal setting. There is no need trying to create impressions where they are not needed. You know what your strengths are. Those SWOT analysis is important for goal setting. You know what you were struggling with, for instance, last year. You know where the challenges were high last year. That's a good place to begin. And then I should say, with all of this around me, so which of them do I need to target? And let me say this, we can't solve all the problems at once. I know we talk about goal setting, but goal setting is not an answer or a solution to all our life's problems. So goal setting is we saying, okay, so with all of these problems, for instance, this is the most important.
Yeah.
So make this a priority. And then ask yourself, where do I begin? So spot your beginning point. It might be small steps. The beauty with small steps is that it allows you minimize your risk when necessary. And then it encourages you. What's again trying to crush a goal that has consumed you from day one? So there's no fun in it. So handle what you can. Grow the strength, the ability, the competence, and then reset, move to something higher.
Okay, so the next question is a bit personal for me, because I've been in that position before, ambition and contentment, without making people feel that maybe you are trying to be too ambitious.
Okay.
Or maybe, and at the same time, you've been ambitious. So there was a time in my life where I felt like I was thirsty and hungry for growth. But at the same time, I was trying so hard not to sound like I'm ungrateful, or maybe I'm feeling like I know too much or something like that. When you get to that position in life, how would you call it? Would you say that it's okay to feel like that sometimes? And would you say that maybe probably it's a sign for you to maybe achieve something greater for you?
Okay, let's talk about ambition.
And how do you balance these two?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that's where contentment comes in. Now it's simple to handle ambition problem, and these are my two-step solution to it. Number one is that there is this high need to define what success means to you. You see, sometimes what success means to one person may not be what success means to the other person. So that definition is healthy for managing ambitions. So many times I've seen people who base their goals based on what their friends, for instance, tag acceptable.
Okay.
What the society tag acceptable, what people will love about them. You see, if we ask deep reflective questions, you realize that where the part of you that commands your greatest strength may not even include all of that. So many times we stretch our ambition so loud that we don't even know what the limits are. So that is where contentment comes in to balance it. In the goal setting rule, for instance, there's what we call the SMART goals, for instance. So we said R there stands for reasonable or realistic. Now, if I say, for instance, that I want to trek from, let's say, Nigeria to Uganda, for instance.
Why would you even want to do that?
So it's not reasonable. That's where we're going. So that's an ambition.
Realize that 2024, people were doing a lot of unreasonable things. Things that we thought were impossible, but people were doing it.
They were doing it for whatever reason. Maybe to be seen, to be recognized, to be clapped for.
True.
And that's the same thing we are saying, because it's possible to spend your life living in a way that people will be clapping. But then if you are to track this to the records of impactful efforts and development, it goes nowhere near it. So that's what we're saying. And the second thing I want to say is the need to set realistic. Okay, I think I've already captured that. So you define what success means, then set realistic goals. There's no need basing our goals on what is false. Everybody else's impression about you. You see, that limits you. that limits you. So it can be an ambition, but then that's not what should drive you.
Yeah.
Know where the limits lie and then balance
Okay,
it
so,
on with contentment.
I know very well that most of our conversation, people are feeling like, okay, just for the adults alone. But I know the year I started, lately, it's not like way back where kids don't really write down certain things they want to achieve. But lately, parents and maybe individual kids actually do write things they want to achieve. Let's talk about gifts, rewards at the end of you setting up. How important are these when it comes to parents who are trying to persuade or trying to help their children set goals or integrity and all these things? Like, how do you do this with rewards?
Okay, yeah. So, in raising children, I've come to understand the place of motivation. And children repeat what you celebrate. You see, many times, as simple as get this done.
Yeah.
By the time I come back, I'm surprising you. I have a surprise for you. I mean, I tell you, the child will be on your neck. So every child loves that. I mean, I have 2 children, so I know what I'm talking about. That many times, so get them to do things. Set in some of those little rewards. It may not be money. It could just be, you will get the bigger share. And every child just wants to feel domineering at different points. But then you've taught that child an important life principle.
Okay.
You see, so goal setting would have been a better experience for adults if we had parents who cared so much about helping us get it right. So if we had parents that were being intentional raising, parenting is not a joke. Not a joke. You see, everything teaches. Everything teaches. Exactly. So the place of motivation cannot be ruled out.
Let's talk about failures in situations where you fail when trying to pursue your goals. You as an individual, you could actually use yourself as a case study. How were you able to learn? How were you able to get up out there without feeling like you can't achieve anything right now?
Okay, I don't know whether to call them failures. Yeah, because they never pulled me down, but I might be more comfortable calling them, challenges, calling them obstacles, and all of that. So for me personally, I've had it in different parts. There's been those moments I'd set out goals to do things, and I realized that procrastination met me. Somehow, and before you know it, I will do it. I will do it, and I'll do it. Time is going.
Yeah.
And whether you like it or not, it's a goal because there's an element of time attached to it. And once you lose that time, you've missed something very important. So I've been in that situation, so where I had to procrastinate. There have been other times too where maybe the resources to execute wasn't there. And at some time, you will need to tell yourself, okay, work with what's possible. Instead of giving up the whole goal, can you re-strategize? Can you change something about the timing of this goal? It's still going to happen, but touch the time factor a little and give it more realistic time.
And still boils down with you paying attention to what made you
beautiful. So the attention just has to be there. You see, there's nothing like, I want to achieve this by June. You see, other factors can play around. You are not the owner of June, okay? So other things can play around, and there'll be need for that flexibility. But so if you are somebody who is paying attention to yourself, you know where the gaps are. Now, for me too, there was also another journey that required people. Now, how do you force people to go with you when they can't even see what you are saying? So it can also be a challenge. So sometimes patience needs to come in, which I possibly may not have factored in the process of creating that vision and setting that timeline. So now that this challenge has stirred up with me, before me, it could mean why not retrain them more? Why not help them catch perspective better? And then be patient, touch the timeline a little. I mean, the important thing is that in the end, things were okay. So that is it for me.
Okay, so let's talk about spiritual and moral values, okay? How they also influence the way we set our goals and also when we're actually trying to pursue them.
You see, we are most likely to set goals based on our spiritual and moral values. We can't take that away. There are things I can't just rise up now and say I'm doing. It doesn't sound like me. So it's important I pay attention first to that. And secondly is the fact that even after setting the goal, we find the motivation to get going from our spiritual and moral values. You see, for me, for instance, there are mornings I just wake up and I know that there are some resources I need to plug my mind to receive. What that does for me is it prepares me for the day. And it prepares me, it just sets me on tone. There are moments I just know that this is not me. The inspirations are not flowing for what I want to do. You see, that's a call to tune back, in other words, to my spiritual, empowering means now. So I might need to listen to that message again. I might need to plug my ears to that resources, and I just stay more on it, okay, until I find the next motivation that I need to get going. So we can't just leave it all that to have set the goals. In practicality, our goals will be tried. We'll be shaken in some ways, and it takes what you believe firmly to make a mark in the midst of all of this. Yeah.
All right, so before I let you go, in a world where there's so many comparisons, there's a whole lot of pressure going out. Let's be real, a lot of people are achieving goals that you thought, even the kids lately, like the kind of goals they are achieving with their content creation, their ambitions. Sometimes you ask yourself, like, am I in the right career path? I think one of these days we'll have a conversation on career path.
Okay.
So for me, I want to know from you, like, in a world where there's so much comparison, so much pressure in achieving certain goals, how do I fit in? How do I persuade myself that I'm on the right path and I'm okay, I'm doing just fine?
Okay, the first is to know that the journey of life is very personal. And that's what I tell myself. There's no need comparing myself with anybody. I mean, our paths are different. You might even realize that if you had to probe yourself further, you don't really love that path.
This you made, a lot of people are still not ready to achieve.
Okay, I mean, but that's what it is. Now, what do you do when you're not wired in some area? I mean, somebody can be here comparing himself with somebody in the tech, for instance, when nothing around you looks techy.
Truth.
And also, why do you think you will get to where the person has gotten to, by just sitting here and feeling you are disadvantaged in some ways? So what I believe strongly is in being able to identify what our strengths are. The timeline is different for different people.
True.
You see the timeline. There are things you get into in 6 months, you see the result. The other things you get into, you need to give yourself many years.
Spiritual life comes in there.
Yeah, so spiritual life too comes in. So you just know that I'm not here to compare myself. I'm just here to be the best version of me.
So you're ready to understand that you're going to be fine.
I mean, why not? You see, let's deal with this because sometimes this is where the pressure comes in. And I've seen a lot of people, compromising, beating down on their principles because they want to get overnight what somebody has got. And you possibly didn't know the routes and the days and the efforts and preparation it took the person to get there. Stay strong on your principles. Stay strong. I mean,
all right, so before you go, a little something for 2025. A little message out there for 2025. Okay,
yeah. So the year is just starting, and 2025 will become whatever you create into it. That's what I believe. It's coming blank for everybody. So if by December you'll be happy, it's a function of what did you put into it. You see, I used to say the future holds what you create into it. The future holds the vision you see. 2025 holds the pictures you are creating. So take out the time, create the pictures, and we look forward to an amazing 2025.
Thank you so much, Captain. Thank you so much for coming. We really do appreciate it.
It is well.
And to everybody, once again, a happy new year to you. And do enjoy the rest of your weekend. My name is Nana Abina. Take care of yourself. Ciao for now.